With a lull in the Colts offseason, guys, let's jump into a mock draft. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. It's your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am Zach Hicks. I'm joined today by Destin Adams, my colleague over at horseshoehuddle.com. And guys, before we jump into anything, Jake is going to be a little MIA this week. He's traveling around the country at these pro days and stuff, and he's had some personal things come up as well. So Destin, thank you for filling in, and we're gonna have some fun today. We're gonna do a mock draft for you guys, and if you guys are watching on YouTube, we're actually gonna put the mock draft simulator up, and so you guys can follow along there on YouTube. So if you guys are listening on audio, that's fine. We'll still read out a lot of things that we're doing, but I do highly recommend going over to the Locked On Colts podcast channel on YouTube and checking out the video stream. So Destin, I'm going to get it set up here. Before I do, though, talk about who you want it for. You know, it's a mock draft simulator, so we might have to take Bryce Young or C.J Stroud there at 4. Who knows?
Yeah, things might get crazy. I think this is my third straight week on Locked On. Every time it's only with one of you. I was with just Zach 2 weeks ago. Last week I went on with just Jake. Now I'm back with just Zach. So I'm super excited to be here. But yeah, I mean, mock drafts always super fun. Love the PFF mock draft simulator system. Would love to land Anthony Richardson. I think the realistic pattern here would be Richardson or Levis. If the simulator wants to get crazy and give me C.J Stroud or Bryce Young, I'm not gonna question it.
Yeah, for sure. So if you guys are following here on YouTube, our settings right here is, obviously we're picking number 4 for the Colts. We're gonna have it a little bit on the slower speed. That way we can kind of talk while the simulator is going to the next pick, and you guys can kind of see who's going off the board and get upset there, obviously following along. Some general settings down here, not as much randomness. Teams are drafting for need and all that. We do have it set for 7 rounds, so we're going to do a whole 7-round one here in about 25-30 minutes. So it should be pretty fun. But yeah, Destin, are you ready to jump in? Let's do this thing.
Let's get to it.
All right, so we're starting off this mock draft, guys. For you guys listening on audio, we are hitting start. The Carolina Panthers take Bryce Young, and the Texans take Anthony Richardson. Come on.
Hey, sometimes, man. I mean,
hey,
okay. Let's be real for a second, though. I mean, so did that say Bryce Young went first?
That's true. It did say Bryce Young went first. So in that situation, I do think the Texans would go Anthony Richardson or maybe go a defender. So.
I think this is the only way C.J Stroud comes to Indy. Personally, if this happens, we probably have to get on the phones and get to 3, because then the calls are going to be coming. But yeah, I mean, I do think if Carolina decides to go Bryce Young, which I've heard there's some things with Tepper, and that he has some Bryce Young fandom in him. So I guess it depends on who's making the decision there. Because if Frank Reich's making the decision, C.J Stroud's the pick. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's sitting there. We're looking right at him here.
Right. So we're going to take C.J Stroud for this mock draft. Again, we fully expected to go Stroud, then Bryce Young. And for the purpose of this draft, guys, we're not going to do any trades. So we're not going to trade up or trade down. Obviously, in this situation, if Stroud were to fall to 3, though, we would probably send some picks to the Cardinals to move up and get him. Just a good prospect, and obviously you want to lock that in. But yeah, for the purpose of this mock draft, I think we're in agreement here, Destin. C.J Stroud.
Yep, C.J Stroud, and seeing these rankings here, Levis at 4 is interesting.
Over Stroud.
But I think we can lock that in.
Yeah. So we got that locked in. Will Levis go 7 to the Raiders? A couple of notable picks here. The Titans go a tackle. We got some more tackles going. Nolan Smith going at 16 to Washington.
At Ohio State's pro day, it felt like Vrabel was just like hovering around Paris Johnson like the entire day. Like personally, whenever I see Vrabel in his little vest that he always has, different color, a different color for every day of the week. But
Right.
like he was just always hovering around Paris Johnson, who had a really good day at the pro day.
Yeah, no, phenomenal player, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense there for the Titans. So getting to our second round pick again, if you guys are watching on YouTube, you could slow it down or pause it and see which guys went before us. But we're gonna filter some positions here because we feel like Destin, you can yell at me if you think I'm wrong here, but let's filter between interior offensive line, corner, and wide receiver. I think that's where the Colts are going to go with their second round pick. What do you think?
I mean, I think the only one that I would add to it is edge rusher.
Okay, we'll throw that in. We'll throw that in there.
Just because I think it really depends on like who falls out of the first round. There's going to be a run on certain positions, so it'll just depend on like where the value is. I mean, I'm looking at Will McDonald already. Love me some Will McDonald personally. Not going to be who I bang the table here for, just because of some of these corners. I see an edge rusher there as well.
Addy from Northwestern. I'm telling you, I think this is a guy that Chris Ballard would love if he somehow gets to round 2. I don't think he's going to be there in round 2, but this is a guy where
especially knowing Chris Ballard and that we're not picking at 36.
Yes, we will put the stipulation here that they're picking at 35 as of right now.
35.
Yeah, unless there's a guy there that they absolutely love, which in a second I'll tell you who they might actually love there at 35 and who I think I might be able to talk you into taking here. I don't think they're going to keep this pick. I think they'll move back. But yeah, no, this is interesting. They obviously want to go corner, I think, with the needs on the roster. And Pro Football Focus is kind of lower on the guy, but the guy who I think they might go with at corner is Julius Brents. Obviously, I think they'll like as well. He might not be here. Where is he? No, he might have already gone. I was going to say Kelly Ringo from Georgia is who I think that they're going to really love. They've done a lot of work on him this offseason. Big athletic corner. I think that's a guy they go with. Obviously, Julius Brents is an option as well. I know we all love him here in Indy. He's from the area, really long athletic corner. So they could go there at corner. Obviously, Will McDonald, FAU, BJ Ojulari at edge. What are you thinking here, Destin? What are you thinking? Steve Avila at guard? You got some interesting options.
I mean, I like Steve Avila. The Colts, for whatever reason, have not decided to fill any needs on the interior line at this moment in free agency. Lots of needs still there. So, I mean, Steve Avila is a guy I like in round 2. I like Joe Tipton. I mean, the report coming out that Ryan Kelly's going to be here kind of makes things a little different to where we don't know what they could do there. I love Julius Brents. I think some people listening are going to think that's a little bit of a reach, but I love Julius Brents. I think he is going to end up being a guy that goes day 2. And I think he could hear his name early second. Keely Ringo is a guy who I've been saying for a while I wish would have been here in your mock draft simulator for us, because I think he's a guy that Chris Bauer is going to love. The speed there. I know he's coming. He has that little bit of effect where it feels like every year a top corner has a rough game during the college football playoffs. And like people just can't get that out of their brain. Keely Ringo had the tough matchup of playing against old Marvin Harrison Jr. And that has left a little bit of sour taste in some people's minds on him, but talented player.
Yeah, and I will add to that was the only touchdown he gave up all year, was in that game. So Keely Ringo, I think, will be the guy at 35, but if not, I could totally see them moving back and taking a guy like Julius Brents. So I'm going to go with Julius Brents here. I know PFF is going to kill us for this, but I'm going to take Julius Brents here with our second round pick. And before we go to a little break here, a little intermission, guys, we are going to do our third round pick, and then we'll get to the day 3 picks. But we're looking good right now. We got corner, and we got our quarterback of the future. We got a corner. So I think with this next pick, Destin, we almost certainly got to go offense. Like, we don't want to force it, but I think wide receiver or interior offensive line is where we almost certainly got to go here. So hopefully we get some talent coming back our way here. We do have to wait a little bit with our next pick being a little bit later in the third round because it's Washington's pick at 79. But yeah, coming up, Marvin Mims just went before us, which sucks. I love Marvin Mims.
I saw Tank Dell went. I saw A.T. Perry getting a little love there in round 3.
I know they're taking all of our boys here. Yeah. Ooh, I'm not loving this wide receiver crop here.
See, so I mean, I like a few of these guys. I mean, we've talked a little bit about Raheem Jarrett. I'm a Raheem Jarrett guy. Jonathan Mingo, got to talk with him at the Senior Bowl as well. Really solid guy as well as a player. I don't know how you feel about some of these guys, but I mean, like I like Trey Palmer. I like Parker Washington, especially. Like, I think Trey Palmer is a guy who has that big slot ability, but also has that speed that you can kind of like rotate him to the Z role if you wanted to not play him in the Y. So I like Trey Palmer of the guys that I've seen so far at receiver. I like Parker Washington too. I think Parker Washington is more so where he kind of has to be a slot more so than a Palmer who has a little bit of flexibility. So it would just kind of depend on where they'd want to go. But those are the two receivers that I see so far that I like the most.
Yeah, personally, I would go Jarrett or Mingo here, but I'm gonna defer to you here. I think we want some vertical element. We want some speed here. So either Parker Washington or Trey Palmer, I think is really interesting.
Are you going to give me the final say on the two?
I might give it to you. Let me look at these guys real quick. So we got 5.4 yards after the catch for Trey Palmer, which is tied for 219th in the nation. 10 drops, which is quite a bit. So not much after the catch. Not much contested catches, but he separates down the field and gets open down the field. And then when we look at Parker Washington, we got 6.3 yards after the catch, a little bit more. Only 3 drops, so a little bit more reliable. Depth of target's a little bit lower because he's a slot guy. So two very different receivers here. So, Destin, I'll give you the final say. Parker Washington, the slot guy who's underneath, or Trey Palmer, the explosive guy over the top?
Man, I mean, so looking at Steichen's offense, I mean, I think part of the reason that we kind of see Paris Campbell kind of let go this offseason was the element that he doesn't really take the top off the defense, and he was more of a run after catch guy. And I think Steichen may be looking for that guy to take off the top. I'm high on Trey Palmer. I'm higher on Trey Palmer than most people. So PFF may also not like this. But personally, I would go Palmer over Washington. I like both of them, like I said, but I think Palmer has that ability to where you can move him around to be that slot, a bigger slot. I believe he's like 6'2", maybe 6'3" even. And he has that ability to kind of slide into the Z role if they ever needed to as well. So I like Palmer's versatility.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm all with that actually too. Trey Palmer, I like the speed, I like the ability to kind of do both things there, like you said. I think the Colts kind of need that here for Shane Steichen's vertical offense. So yeah, let's go with Trey Palmer there. Let's go with Trey Palmer. And guys, coming up, we're going to do day 3 of this draft as well. So we're going to do the whole darn thing. And before we run out of time, I got to make sure that I let you guys know about our friends over at FanDuel.com. The tournament is heating up, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe and secure and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores to who's going to cut down the net. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with same-game parlay. So don't miss a chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so let me share the screen again here, guys. We're going to get right back to this mock draft. And so we're going into day 3 here. And the most important things to remember with day 3 is we probably shouldn't limit to positions like we have there on the first couple days, like we were just doing with those first couple picks. So not limit to positions. We're going to go like best player available, maybe get some special teams guys. I'm seeing right here with our 4th round pick, we got some decent players. Parker Washington's still available there. So we can go double dip at wide receiver. Ivan Pace, he's kind of small for a Chris Ballard guy, but really, really solid player as well. We got some interesting guys. Oh, we can go the super athletic tight end again. Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion.
Now, Yaya Diaby's a guy that I just can't imagine Chris Ballard's not going to love either.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, Yaya Diaby.
We can go Aiden O'Connell. We can double dip at quarterback.
I know some people have been saying that we got to do the Kirk Cousins and RG3 thing, but I'm kind of with you on Yaya Diaby. I think this is a guy where he's not going to be a finished product. He's all effort and athleticism right now. Like pass rush win rate, it's pretty solid for who he is. Not really good in the run game, but this is a guy where he doesn't really have much in his arsenal. He's just so athletic and so much effort. So I'm intrigued by him. And yeah, I like him here in the 4th round. That's where you bet on those traits. And a guy like Yaya Diaby out of Louisville, the edge rusher, I think that's a good trait to bet on for sure. So Yaya Diaby here on day 3. Rolling along here with the 4th round. I think it's going to be a minute until our next pick here because I think we're like the middle or the late 5th round.
Yeah, but it's okay because once we get to the 5th round, we have 3 picks to make in the round. So maybe how they're going to use some of those picks to trade up potentially. But multiple 5ths because of the trade that sent Naeem Hines out of town. Obviously, they got an extra 5th there. And then they recently got an extra 5th for moving Stephon Gilmore. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I like the Yaya Diaby pick. Like I said, a guy who is going to be versatile. They can kind of play him on the outside or the inside. And a athletic freak, so just kind of has Chris Bauer's name all over it. So we haven't taken a lineman yet, and like an offensive lineman, Zach. I feel like people have already like clicked off because of that. So probably an area that we should look into.
Oh, yeah, no, I think interior offensive line makes sense. You know, the love child here of draft Twitter all of a sudden has been Chandler Zavala out of North Carolina State. This is a guy where I didn't hear one thing about him until about a week ago. And now every single person saying that he's going to be the combine snub that's drafted super high. Numbers look pretty good here. Pass block win rate and pass block grade is really good here according to Pro Football Focus. Bigger guy too, pretty athletic. I think it makes sense. We can go Chandler Zavala here. Jarrett Patterson, if you're biased to your Notre Dame boys. For you guys listening, I know a lot of you guys are Notre Dame fans. Jackson Kirkland, I wish was a better prospect than what he is.
No, I mean Chandler's probably the right pick there. I mean, it all becomes different now, just like trying to like picture like who they would prioritize. But I mean, I think Chandler has a little bit of that high upside. You're on day 3, so any interior lineman you're gonna get here is not a day 1 starter. So I don't know if you guys can tell that me and Zach are Will Fry fans because we decided to let him keep his job.
Look, I was trying to get us to take interior offensive line earlier, but you know, we need to get that wide receiver. We needed that 3rd receiver, that 4th receiver, however you want to play it. And Julius Brents, I think you and I are both really, really high on that guy. And the Colts, look, whatever you think their need is at right guard right now, their need at corner is even bigger. Like their need at corner is huge right now. Dallas Flowers is currently a starting corner, and I like Dallas Flowers. I hope he's awesome, but they need another corner like really bad. So I don't hate what we've done. I could totally see it happening. I just think in this scenario, you probably need to grab another veteran, you know, just another veteran out there for offensive line depth.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely got to, we're going to have to eventually, but I mean, how the board fell, it fell. I mean, and I feel like this is a win in the draft no matter what. We got C.J. Stroud at 4.
Yeah. I want to go corner again. I might overrule you here.
I love this corner class.
Starling Thomas, the 5th here from UAB. This is a guy where me and Hag are going to talk about him at some point this offseason. So Hag has known this guy since he was in 9th grade. And he was telling me he's a world-class like sprinter when he was younger. And he's been telling me that this is the next Isaiah Rodgers. If you look at him, completion percentage when targeted last year, 37%. Forced incompletion last year was 17, which is 8th in the entire country. Very few missed tackles. Like this is a guy where he was just locking it down last year for UAB. And then he ran a 4.28 the other day at his pro day. Now he's not very big. That's where obviously Hag, when he was telling me, was saying that this is going to be the next Isaiah Rodgers because he's not very big. But I think as a, you know, what are we in the 5th round here? A 5th round special teamer that has some upside and compete with Dallas Flowers for cornerback 4. Like I'm all for Starling Thomas here.
Yeah, I mean, I like Starling Thomas too. I know he already has a reported I don't know if it was a top 30, but he has some sort of meeting scheduled already with the Colts coming up. So there is that reported interest there as well.
Yep. I believe it is a top 30. Colts like to use their top 30s on guys who got snubbed from the combine and had good pro days. So they like to get them in there for extra information and stuff. So yeah, I believe it is a top 30 visit. Now, we could go kind of any direction here. We've got 2 corners. I feel good about that. We've got our interior offensive line. We got a wide receiver. We could use another wide receiver, honestly.
I say, yeah, we could use another receiver. It's not a Chris Ballard draft if we don't draft a linebacker on day 3.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
lots of different areas to kind of just look at there. Um, I think a linebacker spot that I think is not being talked about a lot that's a need on this team is still coverage ability. There, with the loss of Bobby going over to New York, I think that's an area where Zaire Franklin had a good year last year, not a coverage guy. Shaquille Leonard is going to be coming back from an injury, so we still aren't really sure what version of Shaquille Leonard we're going to get. But that's an element to me that coverage, and Aubrey Miller does check the coverage box.
Yeah.
He does check the coverage box. A Jackson State product, so Deion Sanders obviously having an impact there. But Aubrey Miller is a guy that on day 3 would check the coverage box at the linebacker spot, and they definitely have that need there.
Yeah, and Jackson State, they get these guys playing special teams and stuff. So yeah, Aubrey Miller Jr., I think this is an interesting guy to take. Now, I will say before I make this pick, because we will end up taking Aubrey Miller, he's not in this guide here, but Zaire Barnes out of Western Michigan is a guy that has a top 30 visit with the Colts, getting a lot of interest. He's going to be a 10-plus year special teamer who can play some linebacker. So keep an eye on him. But Aubrey Miller Jr., yeah, I'm all for that here. We'll see if PFF loves it at the end of the draft. But yeah, I'm all for that here. They need more in the linebacker group. I agree with you. I like JoJo Doman for special teams, and I like Grant Stewart for special teams. But just getting another guy in there, whether it's a pick or an undrafted free agent that can play a little bit, and just add that competition. I'm all for that right there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But it's just a spot that isn't talked about a lot to me still. I mean, Bobby leaving was a big one, but obviously, but we got EJ Speed back. So we'll kind of see how they want to rotate guys in and out. But I think getting a guy with coverage ability there was a big win. But obviously we did not have a 6th rounder there. We had 3/5, so they make up for it. So I think this is the last one, right?
No, 2 picks in the 7th because of
7th.
who was it? The Grant Stewart trade. The Colts traded their 6th for Grant Stewart and the Buccaneers 7th. Yep. So we have a couple things here. Now these are 7th round picks. So we could go for a really high upside wide receiver. We know that. Ooh, here we go. Darius Davis from TCU. Now, if you guys don't know about this guy here, Darius Davis had, I think, 3 punt return touchdowns last year for TCU. Has had, I think, 6 return touchdowns in his career. Great special teams player, super athletic. That's who I would want to go with. And then I see the guy below is who you probably want to go with here, Destin.
I am a Jalen Wayne fan, man. Jalen Wayne, obviously, his cousin / uncle is Reggie Wayne, the Colts receiver coach. I do know there is interest there. A guy who really is new to the sport of football still. Really only picked up the game of football his sophomore, junior year of high school after kind of figuring out that being a 6'2", 6'3" guard probably wasn't going to get him anywhere with the NBA as that's moving. So he made the adjustment to receiver. Still really new there, so his route tree isn't as developed as you may like, but has the athletic features already, has the big catch radius that you'd want to see. Man, there's a lot of people still here. Payne Durham is not going to be drafted in the 7th round, guys. I'm telling you that right now. Payne Durham will not be going in the 7th round. We do need a blocking tight end. I thought the Colts would add it via free agency. They have not went that route. Payne Durham is a really great blocker. I know you got to talk with him recently, and he kind of got to talk a little bit about how he looks at Jack Doyle's game a lot when looking at his own. So the Colts have been missing him quite a bit.
We can go fullback, Hunter Luepke from North Dakota State. He's awesome. We could go there.
hey, did the Eagles have a fullback listed last year?
No, but they use their tight ends kind of rolling back and stuff like that quite a bit. So Jalen Wayne, I like. I think he's probably more undrafted free agent just because his testing numbers I don't think wowed, and he didn't obviously do a bunch. So let's go Darius Davis here just for the special teams ability, because we know the Colts love return guys late, and you know what, the Colts don't really have a punt returner on the roster right now. Dallas Flowers can do a little bit of it. Isaiah McKenzie obviously has done it in the past, but Darius Davis from day one could be a top tier punt returner. So let's go Darius Davis here. But I do like the info you gave on Jalen Wayne. Obviously, you guys can go check out on the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel that interview that Destin and Rashad did with Jalen Wayne, and it wouldn't shock me whatsoever if he ended up here in Indy.
Yeah, Jalen's a great guy to talk to, and just like I said earlier, new to the sport of football still, but very raw prospect that I could see his cousin Reggie having a little bit of interest in bringing over. But man, Aiden O'Connell is just sitting there, man, like every round. So I mean, there's still a couple needs left. I mean, the blocking tight end element's still there if they wanted to use a draft pick to fill that. I think getting a running back that may have a little bit more pass catching ability, maybe an area that they could look at on day 3.
Hunter Luepke.
Hunter
Luepke. The fullback.
if you wanted to go fullback, that is an element. Tyon Evans is a guy who he's fun. Evan Hull. I can't imagine Evan Hull is going to make it to the 7th in live action though.
No, because he's such a high-level special teamer as well.
Yeah.
And that's just going to push him up because he's a guy where you can throw him out there to run down punts and stuff like that and run down kicks and also return kicks. So Evan Hull, I think, won't be here come draft day, but you never know. Obviously, again, these mock draft simulators are not perfect. Let's go Evan Hull, though, just for S and Gs, like I think this is a guy who could be a high level. Look, the Colts love special teamers on day 3. So getting a guy like Evan Hull and Darius Davis there in round 7, like your special teams are set. And again, guys, if you guys are doing these mock draft simulators and taking guys in round 7 that you think are going to be day 1 starters, that's not really, I mean, outside of Rodney Thomas, apparently. Rodney Thomas somehow can do it, but for the most part, that's not the way the NFL really works. Typically, you're taking guys in round 7 to be special teamers, and getting 2 high-level guys like that there in round 7, I think is a good thing. So we're about to wrap this up.
Rip us. Just know it. I just know it.
They are. We're about to wrap this up, guys. So let's see how PFF grades our draft. Again, I care more about your guys' grade than PFF's grade. So let us know in the comments what you think about this draft. Again, I'm sure it's going to be great because we got C.J Stroud super high. But man, PFF, come on, get the grade in.
They really don't like it. That's why it's taken so long. They just really wanted it.
We got roasted.
Hey, the A+ early helps.
So C.J Stroud got us an A+. Julius Brents got us an F. Trey Palmer got us a D. Yaya Diaby got us an F. I think this is a good draft. I don't know.
Hey, I think this is a very Chris Ballard draft as well. I mean, I think this is a very realistic haul that could happen. So outside of Stroud at 4, that tipped the scales a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, I said it when I took Palmer. I like Palmer more than a lot of people. So I could see PFF not liking it. But I mean, Julius Brents is one of my guys. I mean, I think Julius Brents has taken on just all of Twitter is one of their guys now. But Julius Brents was a star at the Senior Bowl when I was down there in Mobile. And he had a really solid combine as well. And he's an Indy kid. He's an Indy kid. I mean, it just makes so much sense for the Colts to go that route, even if it's a little early on round 2.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if they come away with the first 2 picks with C.J Stroud and Julius Brents, I'm doing front flips. I'm pumped. So let us know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think about this draft? Are you all for the C.J Stroud pick? Or even if you guys replace that with Anthony Richardson, let us know in the comments. We'll keep doing some fun stuff like this in the future. But sorry if today's episode was a little bit choppy. This is our first time doing this. We wanted to try to throw this in there, and I hope for all you audio guys there, it was a little bit easier to follow along. Obviously, I know for YouTube and video, it's going to be very easy to follow along because you actually had the thing right there in front of you. But that's all we have for today, guys. We'll be back with you tomorrow as we keep diving into draft preparation and the latest Colts buzz. Again, Destin, I think you hit Ball State on Monday, and then Tuesday, did you hit Louisville today?
Yeah, so I was supposed to be out there. I actually had a sick kid at home.
Okay.
So I've been grounded this week, but I was at Ohio State and I was at Kentucky last week. So on the Horseshoe Huddle page, we even have the full media availability with Will Levis posted. So if you're a Will Levis person and when you're listening, make sure you guys take a listen to that because he had a lot to say about the Colts. There was a good representation from the Indy media there in Kentucky. So he had a lot of Colts questions to answer. So, and even a question about a person he looks at as a mentor in Peyton Manning.
There you go. So, and then for the rest of the week, when it comes to just the pro day schedule. Rashad is going to be at LSU tomorrow. I'm going to be at Maryland tomorrow, and Jake is going to be over at Tennessee on Thursday. So make sure you guys are following along at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, at Zach Hicks 2, and at The Destin Adams there on Twitter. Also subscribe to Locked On Colts podcast on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. And thank you for making Locked On Colts your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes. From free agency to the draft to salary cap management and more, join NFL experts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino as they take you through what it's like to build a successful NFL franchise every Monday through Friday. Find Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We will see you guys tomorrow. If my voice doesn't crack, tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.